George Soros on admitting you're wrong. What if I told you that one of the greatest investors in history didn't succeed because he was always right? In fact, his real superpower was something most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. He became incredibly successful because he knew how to admit he was wrong. Think about that for a moment. In a world where people argue endlessly to defend their opinions, George Soros built billions by doing the exact opposite. He understood a truth that applies not only to investing, but to business, careers, relationships, and life itself. Being wrong isn't the problem, staying wrong is. George Soros once said, "I'm only rich because I know when I'm wrong." It's one of the simplest investing lessons you'll ever hear, yet it's also one of the hardest to practice. Most people assume successful investors possess an extraordinary ability to predict the future. They imagine legends like Soros can somehow see what nobody else sees. But that's not really how investing works. Markets are uncertain, economies change, companies rise and fall. Even the smartest investors make mistakes, often more than you'd expect. The difference is what happens next. Imagine buying shares of a company because you believe it's going to dominate its industry. A few months later, sales begin to slow. Competitors introduce better products. The company's profits disappoint investors. At this point, many people refuse to let go. Instead of asking what changed, they ask, how can I prove I was right? They spend hours searching for positive news while ignoring warning signs. They convince themselves the market is wrong. Their ego quietly takes control of their wallet. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. It's our natural tendency to seek information that supports what we already believe, while rejecting anything that challenges it. George Soros fought against this instinct. He treated every investment as a hypothesis, not a certainty. If new evidence proved his original idea wrong, he didn't take it personally. He simply changed his position. That sounds easy. It isn't, because admitting you're wrong feels uncomfortable. It bruises the ego. It makes us feel weak. But Soros understood something profound. The market doesn't reward pride. Reality doesn't care about your opinion. The sooner you accept new information, the sooner you can make a better decision. This lesson extends far beyond investing. Maybe you've stayed in a job that no longer inspires you because you didn't want to admit you chose the wrong career path. Maybe you've continued working on a business idea long after the market told you customers weren't interested. Or perhaps you've held on to an argument in a relationship simply because apologizing felt harder than being unhappy. In every case, the cost wasn't making the wrong decision. The cost was refusing to change it. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is asking yourself a simple question whenever you make an important decision. What evidence would convince me that I'm wrong? If you can't answer that question, chances are you've already become emotionally attached to your opinion. Great investors actively search for reasons they might be mistaken. Average investors search for reasons they're right. That single difference changes everything. Ray Dalio calls it radical open-mindedness. Charlie Munger spoke constantly about destroying your own best ideas before the world does it for you. Warren Buffett has often admitted mistakes openly in his shareholder letters. The greatest investors don't worship certainty, they worship truth, and truth sometimes requires changing your mind. Here's something worth remembering. Being wrong doesn't make you unintelligent. Refusing to learn does. Every mistake contains information. Every loss teaches something. Every failed prediction sharpens your judgment, if you're willing to listen. George Soros didn't become legendary because he avoided mistakes. He became legendary because he refused to let mistakes become permanent. That's a lesson every investor and every human being can benefit from. So the next time life proves you wrong, don't see it as a defeat. See it as an opportunity to become wiser than you were yesterday, because the goal isn't to protect your ego. The goal is to improve your decisions. And sometimes the fastest path to success begins with 4 simple words. I was wrong. If this lesson made you think differently, let me know in the comments. What's one time admitting you were wrong completely changed the outcome? I'd love to hear your story. And if you enjoyed timeless investing wisdom from great minds like George Soros, Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, and Charlie Munger, subscribe and join me for the next lesson.